Topic: Interpersonal relations. Subtopics: First, meaning of interpersonal relations. Second, group behavior. Third, defense mechanisms in groups. Interpersonal relationship refers to a strong association among individuals working together in the same organization. Employees working together ought to share a special bond for them to deliver their level best. It is essential for individuals to be honest with each other for a healthy interpersonal relationship and eventually positive ambience at the workplace. Interpersonal skills are traits you rely on when you interact and communicate with others. They cover a variety of scenarios where communication and cooperation are essential. These skills involve the ability to communicate and build relationships with others. Often called people skills, they tend to incorporate both your innate personality traits and how you've learned to handle certain social situations. Effective interpersonal skills can help you during the job interview process and can have a positive impact on your career advancement. Some examples of interpersonal skills include active listening, teamwork, responsibility, dependability, leadership, motivation, flexibility, patience, empathy. Importance of interpersonal relationship at workplace. First, an individual spends around 8 to 9 hours in his organization, and it is practically not possible for him to work all alone. Human beings are not machines who can work at a stretch. We need people to talk to and share our feelings. Imagine yourself working in an organization with no friends around. We are social animals and we need friends around. An individual working in isolation is more prone to stress and anxiety. They hardly enjoy their work and attend office just for the sake of it. Individuals working alone find their job monotonous. It is essential to have trustworthy fellow workers around with whom one can share all his secrets without the fear of them getting leaked. We must have friends at the workplace who can give us honest feedback. Second, a single brain alone can't take all decisions alone and reach to solutions benefiting not only the employees but also the organization on the whole. Employees can brainstorm together and reach to better ideas and strategies. Strategies must be discussed on an open platform where every individual has the liberty to express her views. Employees must be called for meetings at least once in a week to promote open communication. Interaction on a regular basis is important for healthy relationship. Third, interpersonal relationship has a direct effect on the organization culture. Misunderstandings and confusions lead to negativity at the workplace. Conflicts lead you nowhere and in turn spoil the work environment. Fourth, we need people around who can appreciate our hard work and motivate us from time to time. It is essential to have some trustworthy co-workers at the workplace who not only appreciate us when we do some good work but also tell us our mistakes. A pat on the back goes a long way in extracting the best out of individuals. One needs to have people at the workplace who are more like mentors than mere colleagues. Fifth, it always pays to have individuals around who really care for us. We need colleagues to fall back on at the times of crisis. If you do not talk to anyone at the workplace, no one would come to your help when you actually need them. Sixth, an individual needs to get along with fellow workers to complete assignments within the stipulated time frame. An individual working all alone is overburdened and never finishes tasks within deadlines. Support of fellow workers is important. You just can't do everything on your own. Roles and responsibilities must be delegated as per specialization, educational qualification, and interests of employees. An individual needs help with his fellow workers to complete assignments on time and for better results. How to improve interpersonal relationship at workplace. An association between individuals working together in the same organization is called interpersonal relationship. An individual spends around 7 to 8 hours at his workplace, and it is practically not possible for him to work all alone. One needs people to talk to and discuss various issues at the workplace. Research says productivity increases manifold when individuals work in groups as compared to an individual working alone. Employees must get along well for a healthy ambience at the workplace. Let us go through various ways of improving interpersonal relationships at workplace. First, employees must communicate with each other effectively for a healthy relationship. Remember, a problem shared is a problem halved. Second, interact with your co-workers more often. Discussions must be on an open platform where every individual has the liberty to express his or her views and opinions. Written mode of communication is one of the effective ways of communicating at the workplace. Make sure your emails are self-explanatory and do mark a CC to all related employees. Ignoring any of your co-workers might hurt him and spoil your relationship with the individual concerned. Avoid hiding things from your fellow workers. Third, even employees from a different team can be your friends. Talk to them, greet them with a smile and a pie whenever you meet them. An individual must not take things to heart at workplace. Fourth, team leaders and supervisors should conduct morning meetings with their team members. Do not make the meeting too formal. The employees should be allowed to bring their coffee mugs. Let them interact with each other. Morning meetings go a long way in breaking the ice among the employees and improving interpersonal relationships at workplace. Fifth, do not favor any employee just because he is your relative or you know him personally. Favoritism spoils the relationship between superiors and subordinates. Sixth, take your team out for lunch, picnics or get together once in a while. Let the employees bring their families as well. Ask your team members to exchange contact numbers amongst themselves for them to interact with each other even after work. Seventh, greet your colleagues on their birthdays or anniversaries. Send them a nice e-card and do ask for a treat. Such small initiatives go a long way in strengthening the bond among fellow workers. Important festivals must be celebrated at workplace for employees to come closer to each other. 8. Individuals should be motivated to work in teams. Work must be equally allocated to team members to expect the best out of them. No employee should be overburdened. People working in teams are friendlier and adjust with each other better. 9. One needs to be a little more adjusting and compromising at the workplace. Don't expect everything to be done just the way you like it. You will have all types of people around. Avoid fighting over petty things. Do not always look at the negative side of things. Accept people as they are. It is essential to look at the positive side of an individual. Being flexible at work always helps. 10th. Avoid being jealous. Leave your ego behind the moment you enter the workplace. Appreciate if someone has performed exceptionally well. Remember, only hard work and nothing else pays in the long run. 11th. Stand by your colleagues when needed. It is only you who can create a healthy atmosphere at the workplace. Different types of interpersonal relationships. When two individuals feel comfortable in each other's company and decide to be with each other, they enter into a relationship. A close association between individuals who share common interests and goals is called interpersonal relationship. Individuals who are compatible with each other enter into an interpersonal relationship. People must gel well for a strong and healthy relationship. Let us go through the various types of interpersonal relationship. First, friendship. Friendship is an unconditional interpersonal relationship where individuals enter into by their own sweet will and choice. Friendship is a relationship where there are no formalities and individuals enjoy each other's presence. Friendship can be between man and a woman, man and man, woman and woman. Second, love, an interpersonal relationship characterized by passion, intimacy, trust and respect is called love. Individuals in a romantic relationship are deeply attached to each other and share a special bond. Third, platonic relationship, a relationship between two individuals without any feelings or sexual desire for each other is called a platonic relationship. In such a relationship, a man and a woman are just friends and do not mix love with friendship. Platonic relationships might end in romantic relationship with both the partners developing mutual love and falling for each other. Fourth, family relationship. Individuals related by blood or marriage are said to form a family. Fifth, professional relationship, work relationship. Individuals working together for the same organization are said to share a professional relationship. Individuals sharing a professional relationship are called colleagues. Colleagues may or may not like each other. How to highlight interpersonal skills when applying for jobs. During the job application and interview phase, you can highlight your interpersonal skills on your resume and your cover letter. After you are successfully hired, you should continue to maintain your skills and develop new ones. First, including interpersonal skills on a resume. On your resume, include a few key interpersonal skills under the Skills section. Generally, the best skills to put on a resume are those that you are confident will be verified by any of the references you list on your job application. Review the job posting to understand which of your skills are most relevant to the job you're applying for, and which you should prioritize on your resume. Your resume skills section may look like this. 1. Technical skills, POS systems, Excel, HTML, digital phone systems. 2. Additional skills, effective team player, highly communicative and cooperative, active listener, innovative researcher. You can also provide examples of your interpersonal skills in the experience section of your resume. Do this by including concrete examples of how you worked with others and the results you achieved. For example, collaborated with designers, copywriters and strategists on a rebranding initiative that resulted in a 30% increase in website visits. Second, including interpersonal skills on a cover letter. For your cover letter, you may want to focus on one strong, relevant interpersonal skill. This can help the employer get a good idea about an area you see as one of your strengths. You may also want to briefly explain how that skill can benefit the employer and create a good work relationship. An example section highlighting your skills in a cover letter could look like the following. With my previous employer, I was often called upon to help form collaborative teams. My managers pointed to my ability to listen to and understand my colleagues' strengths to best determine how to assign effective roles. Third, interpersonal skills in a job interview and on the job. Your interpersonal skills will be necessary both during the job interview and on the job. During your job interview, the hiring manager may be looking to see how well you listen actively, maintain eye contact, and whether you are courteous and respectful. The job interview is also a good opportunity to show dependability. Arriving early for your interview, for example, shows you are serious about the interview and respect the interviewer's time. Once you successfully get a job, you will continue to rely on interpersonal skills. By demonstrating that you are dependable, taking the initiative to lead and having a positive impact on your colleagues, you can develop a strong reputation as a collaborative teammate. Group behavior. What is group behavior? Therefore, group behavior in organizations tends to follow the organizational norms and rules wherein the employees are expected to be disciplined, follow orders, and work to the requirements of the organization rather than their own whims and fancies. Indeed, the extreme form of groups conforming to the common codes of behavior is the armed forces, wherein all members at whatever level they are in are expected to follow the orders of their superiors. On the other hand, organizations such as Google and Facebook are less hierarchical and less structured, with employees being allowed to work on their pet projects for a certain period every week. The difference here is that in the armed forces and many organizations, the boss is always right, whereas in the startups and the new economy or the knowledge sector, the rules tend to be less rigid. Most organizations fall between these two extremes, wherein the employees are encouraged, persuaded, and even ordered to conform to the norms of the group, with some latitude and freedom being allowed for them to exercise their independence. Influences on group behavior. There are many factors that influence group behavior in the workplace, including the environment, the organization, and individuals. For this lesson, we are going to focus on 5 types of influences. First, interdependence. Interdependence, in the context of group behavior, is the mutual dependence of group members on each other. A group with members who each bring their own specializations or specific skills, so that each group member needs the others for the group to succeed, will behave differently than a group with members with overlapping skills and abilities. Which configuration will work best depends on the purpose of the group. While a group with subject matter experts from different areas can broaden the group's experience, it also only allows for a single perspective on any given question. On the other hand, a group with members who share knowledge might offer more perspectives, which might result in a more vetted solution, but not without the cost of debate and discussion. For example, putting John, Joan, and Jacob together might make a lot of sense if they've worked together closely in the past and need that expertise to solve a specific problem. However, when the problem requires other perspectives, it might be smart to add Sarah or Steve from another area of the organization. Second, social interaction. Social interaction refers to both the degree of interaction group members have outside of a work setting before the group is formed and how much social interaction they have during the time the group exists. The group could be project-based or indefinite in length. Whatever the length of time, the degree to which group members interact in a social capacity will influence how they interact in the work capacity they have been assigned. Generally speaking, the more social interaction a group has had, the more effectively they'll work together. However, there is a point where too much social interaction might hinder the effectiveness of the group, causing the group to lose focus and make their tasks simply another social interaction. Again, John, Joan, and Jacob are able to quickly work together because they know each other, whereas introducing Sarah or Steve might slow them down a little. That often means there's a trade-off between the quality of the solution and the speed at which it's completed. Third, perception of a group. Each group, just like each organization, has a culture and feeling for why it exists. For example, a working committee that meets once a month to review fiscal policy for an organization will exhibit different group behavior than a project committee that meets daily to plan, design, and advertise a new product. The reason is the perception of being a group. The policy committee meets infrequently and is likely from different functional areas. so members might not have much in common, let alone develop a strong perception as a group. However, the product team very much perceives itself as a group, working together each day toward a defined purpose, and thus will see positive influence from this perceived bond. Fourth, commonality of purpose and favoritism. The defined purpose we just mentioned is also known as commonality of purpose. A shared vision and support for the mission or purpose of the group will determine how they behave with each other. Advantages of group behavior. There are many advantages to organizations by ensuring that employees stick to the group rules and norms. For instance, organizations are formed for a specific purpose, and if the employees are allowed free run and the free rein, more often than not, the result is chaos and anarchy. Moreover, employees need to conform to group norms since organizations are not charity shows, and instead, the employees are being paid to follow the group norms and in turn contribute to the success of the organizational principles and procedures. Further, the very basis of the organizational survival is threatened if the employees do not conform to group norms, since the organization exists to make profit and not to let employees be paid to have fun. This is not to say that organizations are like prisons or slave camps. Rather, there are obvious and less obvious benefits when employees conform to group norms. This is the reason why the evolution of the modern and the postmodern corporations has been such that they impose and enjoin the employees to follow formal and informal norms of behavior. Defense mechanisms in groups. Being rejected from a job you wanted, a social setting you don't feel comfortable in, a stressful argument with your partner. Everyone experiences these negative situations in life, they're unavoidable. However, you can learn a good deal about yourself when you examine how you react to hard times. While some of us communicate effectively and work through a situation only to come out better on the other side, others retreat into familiar defense mechanisms to make themselves feel better and avoid painful feelings. Hiding behind your defenses feels safe in the moment, but it only keeps you stuck and unable to grow. What is a defense mechanism, and how can you learn a healthy alternative? Experts underscore a defense mechanism's psychology that creates a false sense of comfort instead of breeding authentic self-confidence. In addition to understanding how the mind creates its defenses, studying defense mechanism examples provides the clarity you need to break self-defeating habits. First, denial. Denial is one of the most common defense mechanisms. When a situation or fact becomes too much to handle, you may cope by refusing to experience it. By denying reality, you are essentially protecting yourself from having to face and deal with the unpleasant consequences and pain that accompany acceptance. If you tell yourself, "I'm just a social drinker," instead of dealing with your serious drinking problem, or that every couple eventually loses the romance, instead of facing your failing marriage, you are utilizing denial as a defense mechanism. And while this may alleviate any short-term pain, in the long run, denial can prevent you from making positive changes in your life, and can have potentially destructive ramifications. Denial defense mechanism examples. A smoker denies that his habit has negative health consequences so he can continue smoking. A parent denies that her son has dropped out of college even though the school administrator has left her 3 voicemails telling her so. A business owner denies that her business is failing, despite declining profits. How to identify denial defense mechanisms. If there is overwhelming evidence to believe something and you still insist it's not happening, you are likely utilizing denial as a defense mechanism. Signs of this are refusing to talk to someone about a possible issue, avoiding situations where you may have to face up to the truth, and filling your time with busy work so you don't have to think about a certain situation. Second, repression. There is a fine line between denial and repression when it comes to defense mechanisms. But where denial involves the outright refusal to accept a given reality, repression involves completely forgetting the experience. With repression, your mind makes the decision to bury the memory in your subconscious, thereby preventing painful, disturbing, or dangerous thoughts from entering awareness. This is often the case with child abuse or other traumatic experiences that occurred early on in development. While repression, much like denial, may serve immediate purposes, particularly if you were tormented by a painful experience, if you do not eventually process and deal with the experience, it can have severe consequences later on in life. Repression defense mechanism examples. A soldier back from the Middle East represses a memory of killing a civilian. He has recurrent nightmares about the incident, but doesn't consciously remember it. A young child forgets being bitten by a dog but develops a phobia of dogs as he gets older. An adult represses memories of an abusive childhood in order to maintain the illusion of a healthy, functional family. The family unit remains intact, but the individual suffers from depression without understanding why. How to identify repression defense mechanisms. Depending on how deeply an experience has been buried in your subconscious, this one can be difficult to spot. However, there are some symptoms you should pay attention to, such as angry outbursts that are not proportionate to the trigger, nightmares with repetitive themes, and feelings of depression or anxiety that seem to come out of nowhere. Third, displacement. Have you ever endured a stressful day at work, then come home and taken out your frustration on your loved ones? What about a time where you had an argument with your partner, then got in your car and found your patience waning with every driver on the road? If the answer is yes, you're experiencing displacement, one of the typical defense mechanism examples in busy adults. With displacement, you're transferring your emotions from the person or situation that is the target of your frustration to someone or something else entirely. Subconsciously, you believe that to confront the source of your feelings may be too dangerous or risky, so you shift the focus toward a target or situation that is less intimidating or dangerous, for example, the hapless driver in the next lane over. While displacement may protect you from losing your job or burning a bridge, it will not help you handle the emotions you're experiencing. And you will also end up hurting someone completely innocent. This becomes an even bigger issue when you routinely use defense mechanisms like displacement with your significant other, as it violates the cardinal rules of love and will eventually ruin your connection. It's better to face the issue head-on with the person you're actually frustrated with. Displacement defense mechanism examples. A woman who is frustrated because her boss made her work late again comes home and yells at her son for asking what's for dinner. A man who is mad that he can't seem to get ahead at work constantly criticizes his wife for not making more money. An employer who is frustrated with his business losses blames his employees instead of rethinking his business strategy. How to identify displacement defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms psychology says that if you're blowing up at people who have done little or nothing to upset you, this is a classic sign you're displacing your frustrations. You may even have a favorite person to take out your anger or frustration on because you view them as safe or unable to do anything about your irrational behavior. If you've been called a hothead or bully, you may be routinely displaying the displacement defense mechanism. Fourth, projection. Many people include projection in their defense mechanism definition, since it's a common coping tool for avoiding unpleasant feelings. Projection is one of the defense mechanisms that can crop up if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like a fish out of water. Perhaps you're interacting with a group of strangers and haven't been able to connect with anyone yet. You feel uncomfortable and a bit anxious. You start to see that others are staring at you with what you perceive as a critical, judgmental eye. They do not say anything or do anything that is objectively negative. But your insecurity causes you to project your feelings onto others. The feelings may even become so intense that you demand to know. What are you staring at? Most of us have found ourselves in a situation in which we project our feelings, shortcomings or unacceptable impulses onto the people around us. The reason we do so is because to recognize that particular quality in ourselves would cause us pain and suffering. Instead of looking inward, we blame external events and people for how we're feeling. Like the other defense mechanisms, projection can sometimes be used in a positive way, such as when you project feelings of love, confidence and care onto others. But when it impacts us in a negative way, it only compounds the stress and anxiety and prevents us from dealing with the root of those emotions. The projection defense mechanism is one of the most damaging of the 10, as it can lead to heightened feelings of paranoia and anxiety. It can also contribute to limiting beliefs about others that cause you to become bitter, suspicious, or antisocial. Projection defense mechanism examples. You really dislike your manager at work who treats you just like they treat everyone else. Instead of admitting your dislike, you tell everyone the manager has a grudge against you and is trying to sabotage your career. A woman is in a bad mood all day and comes home to her husband. After greeting her warmly and asking about her day, she instantly accuses him of being in a bad mood and ruining her evening. A father has body image issues but refuses to make lifestyle changes that would help him lose weight. Instead, he berates his daughter for her weight, projecting his lack of self-confidence onto her. How to identify projection defense mechanisms. If you are constantly being told you act irrationally, you may be using projection as one of your defense mechanisms. Does your partner tell you, "It's like you're not even hearing what I'm saying"? Do those you get upset with seem confused by your reaction? Do you think that everyone is out to get you or that you are always being treated unfairly? If so, it's time to look into the possibility that you are projecting your feelings onto others. Fifth, reaction formation. With reaction formation defense mechanisms, you are going beyond denial and behaving in the opposite way of which you think or feel. Typically, reaction formation is marked by a blatant display. For example, the man who preaches his disdain for homosexuality overtly may be a defense against confronting his own homosexual feelings. By casting stones at someone or something else, you are trying to take the pressure off yourself instead of directly dealing with the issue. Reaction formation defense mechanism examples. A woman dotes on her aging mother by cooking her meals, cleaning her home and taking her to appointments while she secretly despises her. A person with a drinking problem extols the virtues of sobriety instead of taking steps toward moderate drinking. An employer with deeply held racist ideologies employs a company policy of affirmative action to hide his true beliefs. How to recognize reaction formation defense mechanisms. An important part of defense mechanisms psychology is the fact that our defenses are often subconscious. You may not know you're displaying reaction formation tendencies if you don't look closely at your own emotions and how you really feel about certain people and situations. You may question your own behaviors. Why do I keep doing favors for him when I think he's a terrible person? Or feel deep down that something doesn't add up with how you feel and how you act. 6. Regression. In times of stress, you may find that your behavior becomes more childish. This is one of the defense mechanisms known as regression. Regression causes you to revert to a younger level of development and earlier, less demanding behaviors as a way of protecting yourself from confronting the actual situation. Imagine, for example, having an argument with your partner, and instead of using conflict resolution tools, you stomp off, slam the door, and give your partner the cold shoulder. According to defense mechanisms psychology, the problem with regression is that you may regret letting your childish behavior become self-destructive. This can lead to far more serious problems if you let it go unchecked. If you continually use regression instead of communication with your partner, you'll never be able to achieve the healthy relationship you deserve. Regression defense mechanism examples. A 10-year-old is in the hospital to get his tonsils removed and begins sucking his thumb like he did when he was a toddler. A woman gets in an argument with someone at work and starts sobbing uncontrollably. Instead of utilizing mature parenting techniques like empathy and boundaries, a father resorts to temper tantrums to scare his children into obedience. How to recognize regression defense mechanisms. Do you have emotional outbursts that involve crying, shouting, or throwing tantrums? Are you accused of acting childishly? Do you get overwhelmed during a confrontation and feel yourself shut down? These are all signs you're using regression as part of your defense mechanisms. 7. Rationalization. Rationalization is a common component of defense mechanisms psychology, since it's an easy defense to rely on. In the plainest terms, rationalization occurs when you try to explain your bad behavior away. Imagine you have an irrationally angry reaction to a situation in front of an esteemed colleague who hopefully respects you. To try to justify your behavior, you blame someone else for provoking you. Even if that may be true, it is not the actual reason for your outburst, it's an excuse. Although rationalization is a common ego defense mechanism, in most cases, this won't actually help you pass the blame or justify your behavior. Instead, those around you will view you as childish or egotistical if you're unable to own your mistakes. Rationalization defense mechanism examples. A man forgets to take out the garbage even though his wife has reminded him 4 times. Instead of apologizing, he rationalizes that she hasn't loaded the dishwasher, so it's only fair that he not take out the garbage. A woman stands up her friend for lunch and tells herself it's okay because her friend is always late for their morning yoga sessions. A student rationalizes cheating on a test by saying the test was too demanding anyway. How to recognize rationalization defense mechanisms. Most of the time, you'll have to rely on others to point out when you're using rationalization as one of your defense mechanisms. Why? Because your rationalizations probably make all the sense in the world to you, and it will take an outside point of view to open your eyes. If you feel like you're always in the right and everyone else is in the wrong a good percentage of the time, it's very likely you're relying on rationalization. 8. Sublimation. Sublimation defense mechanisms occur when you transform your conflicted emotions, unmet desires, or unacceptable impulses into productive outlets. It's the situation where you have a stressful day at work, so you go on a long run to cool off. Or you have a fight with your partner, so you turn to writing music. When used to handle a situation you cannot effectively do anything about, sublimation is actually one of the positive defense mechanisms examples and can actually help you achieve goals. But when used routinely to avoid addressing an issue that must be resolved to move forward, it can have negative repercussions. Sublimation defense mechanism examples. A man has issues controlling his temper, so he joins a rugby league so he can take out his aggression in a socially acceptable manner. A woman is frustrated that her daughter has once again neglected to call on her birthday, and instead of calling her to voice her upset, she spends 3 hours scrubbing floors and windows. Instead of working to improve his overall health and fitness, a man lacking self-confidence pours all his energy into his career. Recognizing sublimation defense mechanisms. Do you find yourself doing hard labor, intense exercise, or long, exhausting work sessions when they don't really need to be done? Can you connect those to thoughts of blowing off steam, or fighting some other emotion? If so, you're likely using sublimation. By recognizing that sublimation has become part of your unconscious defense mechanism definition, you're able to take steps to address the behavior. 9th. Dissociation. Dissociation is one of the most powerful defense mechanisms. Psychology surrounding dissociation centers on escapism, mentally separating yourself from your body, depersonalization, or environment, derealization, to distance yourself from overwhelming experiences. Dissociation is common after trauma, since it provides a temporary escape. But when employed long-term, dissociation creates separation from your true self, rendering you impermeable to positive as well as negative experiences. Dissociation defense mechanism examples. A woman finds herself engaging in bulimic eating behaviors in a subconscious attempt to escape feelings of shame and self-loathing. A man who is unhappy in his career struggles to concentrate at work. His mind wanders frequently, an easier fix than doing the work necessary to create a rewarding career. A doctor's parents pressured her into her profession. Even though she dreamed of being an athlete, she dissociates by daydreaming about athleticism instead of acknowledging the career turmoil she is experiencing. Recognizing dissociation defense mechanisms. You don't have to have a clinical diagnosis to engage dissociation defense mechanisms, which range from mild to severe. On the lighter end of the spectrum, you may have difficulty staying mentally present or remaining grounded in your own body. On the heavier end, addictions of all kinds are severe dissociation defense mechanism examples. 10th. Avoidance. Avoidance is one of the classic defense mechanisms. Psychology recognizes avoidance as a near-universal phenomena, since it's human nature to steer clear of the uncomfortable. But when we avoid problems for too long, they only get worse. There are many conscious and subconscious ways to avoid an issue, including the following avoidance defense mechanism examples. Avoidance defense mechanism examples. An employee hates his job, so he procrastinates instead of getting started on a dreaded project he's been assigned. A couple is having marital difficulties. Instead of addressing their relationship struggles, each person changes the subject of conversation every time it comes up. Two friends have been growing apart for years. Instead of accepting that their friendship is no longer fulfilling, one friend keeps up the illusion of friendship through repeated invitations to spend time together. Recognizing avoidance defense mechanisms. Avoidance is one of the more easily identifiable defense mechanisms, since it's often conscious and intentional. To recognize whether you're avoiding an issue instead of confronting it, ask yourself, does my own personal defense mechanism definition include avoidance? If your knee-jerk answer is yes, you must take steps to face your problems directly. How defense mechanisms are holding you back. Even the healthier use of ego defense mechanisms and other types can keep you from attaining your goals and living the life of your dreams. Why? Because they are all about not facing up to what is really going on. To unlock an extraordinary life, you must be honest with yourself and take responsibility for your own emotions. When you use common defense mechanism examples instead of confronting how you're really feeling, you don't make the decision to change. Blaming outside forces or denying that you have a certain reaction are all ways to avoid responsibility. Putting your defense mechanism definition into action. With a working defense mechanism definition at your disposal, now you're ready to take action. While you can't expect to completely remove defense mechanisms from your life, you can become more self-aware and understand how these processes are helping and hurting you. This will assist you in working through the most damaging ones so you can connect better with others and tend to your emotional well-being. The first step in changing your defense mechanisms is accepting that you're using them in the first place. Once you identify how you're coping with stress or negative situations, you can more easily change your state. Over time, you'll be able to handle your problems more directly, which will help lead you to feeling more fulfilled overall. Everyone deals with defense mechanisms, it's only natural. But when you rely too heavily on these defense mechanisms and make excuses when you could be making progress, it's time to analyze your behavior and change your ways. Working past your defense mechanisms takes work, but it's well worth the effort. Discover the driving force behind your reactions with our quick assessment.